We talked about the standings a little bit and how that impacts these awards. So I wanted to get your take on where the standings are right now, at the end of week 4, the start of week 5, and how you think they're going to finish and play out by season's end. Let's start with the AFC East. You have Buffalo on top at 4-0. The New England Patriots with 2 tough losses against Seattle and the Kansas City Chiefs at 2-2. The Miami Dolphins at 1-3, and then the New York Jets at 0-4. Where do you see this division wrapping up at season's end?
I mean, Buffalo already having a 2-game hold on it. I think they're going to win the division for the first time in a long time. And then yep. Patriots, I think, are going to. Sorry?
So they're going to party like it's 1990.
Oh, yeah. So I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to end up winning the division by 2 games. And then I think the Patriots are going to get a wild card and still be a playoff team. Yep, the other 2, Jets, terrible. Miami, yeah, they're good for 3 wins this year.
I think we're going to forget about Miami during the middle of the year, and then Brian Flores is going to make the decision to put Tua in, and we're all going to tune in like, oh, Tua's in, and we're going to tune right out after a couple of weeks again. That team's interesting, has some few key pieces there. I think they're finally building something on the defense side of the ball, but they're about 2 to 3 years away from making any real noise. I'm with you there. I think the Bills win the division. I think the Patriots make it close. I can see Bill Belichick pulling something out of his sleeve and having a real game plan against Josh Allen and really making his life miserable in those games. I think they'll make it close, but I think the Bills do end up stealing that division from under them, and the Patriots get the wild card. Let's go to the AFC North. Currently, the Steelers are on top, being 3-0. Obviously didn't play last week against the Tennessee Titans, and how, with COVID and everything, the Tennessee Titans have their own issues. But so far, the Steelers are 3-0. The Ravens second at 3-1. The Browns tied with them at also 3-1, and then the Cincinnati Bengals at 1-2-1. That tie being for the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you see this very surprising competitive AFC North playing out?
Unfortunately for the Bengals, I think there's just too much firepower with the other teams. I do love Burrow. He's great. They're going to win some games, but they're just not making out of this division. Too many good defenses. Steelers, great defense. Ravens, solid defense. Not as good, but solid. These teams are kind of beat-you-up teams. This is exactly what you imagine out of Midwest Conference. Run the ball a lot, good defense, physical teams. Browns are going to run it down your throat. Ravens are going to run it down your throat. And Pittsburgh's going to be somewhere in between, but play strong on defense. I'm going to still take Baltimore to win the division, but this is a toss-up. I wouldn't make a bet on any of these if I had to. It wouldn't surprise me to see. It would surprise me to see Cleveland winning the division, but I could see Pittsburgh or Baltimore both winning. And I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore both make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Cincinnati is an interesting team. I think they're closer than the Miami Dolphins might be, but they're in a division that I think the only other division that's just as tough, if not tougher, is the AFC West. The NFC West, excuse me. You got 3 teams over 500. That's pretty rare to see, only week 4 into the season. I think Baltimore still takes it. I think they take it relatively easily. I think the Browns are going to fall off here. They're going to come down to earth. Once you play real defenses and not the Dallas Cowboys, I think you kind of realize that you may not be as good as you think you are. I think the Nick Chubb injury is going to hurt them more than people think. And I think the pressure on Baker Mayfield to make plays for that team is just going to be a little bit too much for him. His completion percentage just isn't there. The third down rate just isn't there for me to really trust them. I think they'll go 8-8, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to get a playoff berth at all. Pittsburgh, their defense, obviously, I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL. But Ben Roethlisberger, I am not seeing it. I've been watching the games, and they've been winning, but he's left a little bit too much on the table for my take. There's a lot of plays down there that he hasn't really been taking advantage. I don't know if that's just because he's getting right into football and quarterback play, and it might take a while. But I don't think they can make enough explosive plays to keep up with the Baltimores, with the Chiefs of the world. I think there's a chance to make the playoffs. I think it's going to be tough. But if I had to make a decision right now, I think they do get 1 to 3 wild card berths this year. I think that's going to be big for them. And then I see the Ravens getting the number 2 seed again this season. Sorry, the number 2 seed. They got the number 1 seed last season, right?
Yeah, so, they were and then they lost to the
right. Yeah, so they won't actually get a bye this season, being the number 2 seed. That's the one difference. 3 playoff teams coming out of the wild card slot, but only the first seed gets the bye. So I think that will really hurt them in the playoffs, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the Ravens winning that division, the Steelers getting a playoff berth, and the Browns and the Bengals getting shut out of the playoffs. Let's go on to the AFC South. Another team struck by COVID, the Tennessee Titans. They're kind of king COVID. They have cases all over the place. They have infractions about protocol all over the place. We might be looking at some forfeiture of games here, depending on what the NFL decides to do. But right now, as it stands, they're 3-0. The Indianapolis Colts are 3-1. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1-3 with Gardner Minshew and his mustache. And the Houston Texans, surprisingly to some, 0-4, and now Bill O'Brien list. What are your thoughts here on the AFC South, a division I'm really not high on at all?
Yeah, especially with Tennessee getting all these COVID infractions. Who knows if they're even going to be able to play games, how this is going to impact the rest of their season. I think there's only one team that makes it out of here into the playoffs. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Tennessee just because they find a way to kind of do good throughout the year, and they're 3-0. The Colts, I'm not a big believer in the Colts. Their quarterback play from Phillip Rivers has been, I think, subpar. I know that you think that he's been improving, but I just don't know if he has enough to will them into the playoffs. Although their defense may help carry them, but we'll see how their defense holds up the rest of the year.
Yeah, to me, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and the Indianapolis Colts of 2020 kind of remind me of the Chicago Bears a couple of years ago when they were 13-3. A real strong team on defense. I don't think they're as strong as that Bears defense was, but I think people are going to soon realize that this Indianapolis Colts defense is the best defense in the league. They have one of the most disciplined linebackers with Darius Leonard. They have coverage guys all over the place who can really lock up corners, and they're so disciplined in their zone scheme that it's just hard to take those seam routes, which a lot of teams take advantage of in the NFL these days. And then if you pay attention to their games, you'll see the corners playing the cloud flats in a way that takes it away, but they can also play the opposing post from the tight end. We'll have a film breakdown later this week of talking about that more in depth. But I really like their defense. I think their offense is going to be good enough. They have a great offensive line behind one of the best guards in NFL history, Quentin Nelson. They have Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, who I think is going to become one of the premier running backs in the league. I think as he gets more comfortable in the NFL, as the weeks go on, he's going to be right up there with the Dalvin Cooks of the world, kind of that tier 2 kind of running back and rusher. And I think he's going to get there pretty quick behind that offensive line. And I think they're going to win enough games to come out of this division. I think they're going to beat Tennessee and take care of business. And I don't see any of these other 2 teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars or Texas, making any noise to be on our radar for playoffs. So I agree with you. Only one team makes it out of here and going to the playoff teams, and that's going to be the Indianapolis Colts to me. Everyone else falling short of the playoffs. We got one more division, the AFC West. AFC West, you have the Chiefs at 4-0, the Raiders at 2-2, and both the LA Chargers and Denver Broncos at 1-3. What do you see going on in this division?
I think Kansas City rolls right into the 1 seed this year, and then I think the Las Vegas Raiders, I think they make a surprise playoff appearance. I think the rest of the league is pretty weak. We already kind of had our other 2 picks, and I don't think 2 people can make it from the north. So I think Las Vegas kind of falls into that spot and making the playoffs. But once they get into the playoffs, they're going to get a wake-up call from the Ravens in round 1.
Yeah, the AFC is a little tough. It's kind of like the Eastern Conference in the NBA. There's going to be some teams that make it that maybe shouldn't. I remember a couple of years ago, the Raiders and Texans both made it. They both started backup quarterbacks in the wild card round. We had, I think, T.J. Yates maybe or whoever was backing up at
yeah, that's weird.
Play that game. And we had maybe Connor Cook play quarterback for the Raiders. So it's known to happen. And whenever you have 3 wild card teams, some teams going to get in there that maybe shouldn't, but that's that kind of adds to the fun and unpredictability of the NFL, which we all love. So I got the Chiefs, almost running the tables. I see them going 15-1 this year. Then I see the Raiders and the Tennessee Titans battling for a playoff berth between the 2 of them for that final wild card slot, and then the Broncos and the Chargers are just this is just their year to maybe trend in the right direction. They both have young quarterbacks who are trying to make their way, just getting more experience. I'm not expecting much noise from either of those two teams.
Hey, the best thing about those two young quarterbacks trying to gain experience is this is the perfect year that's going to be for it to happen. Everybody's going to kind of give breaks to people. COVID, weird situation.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to get an extra year this year. The NFL is not going to be nearly as harsh on everybody as they normally are.
No, I agree. I think the AFC picture, to me, the playoff picture, number 1 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. And then number 4, the Buffalo Bills. Actually, no, I'm going to switch that. I think the Bills take the 3 seed, and the 4 seed will go to the Colts. And then the 3 wildcard teams, Steelers, maybe Tennessee, maybe the Raiders, and then the Patriots. I think the Patriots and the Steelers are locked, and I think it's going to be a fight between the Tennessee Titans and the Las Vegas Raiders for that 3rd slot.
Yep, the only difference in the division, and then the Colts fighting it out with the Raiders. Pretty similar, though. I think we agree
pretty much
on that.
the same. Well, I think our only difference is the winner of the AFC South division.
Yep.
Let's move to the NFC. Instead of going division by division, let's just give each other a playoff picture, and let's bounce some ideas off each other. So for me, the number 1 seed is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. Number 2 seed from the North, the Green Bay Packers. The number 3 seed is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The number 4 seed, the Dallas Cowboys. The number 5 seed, the LA Rams. The number 6 seed, the San Francisco 49ers. And the 7th and final wildcard slot will go to the New Orleans Saints. Let's hear yours.
So I'm going to be a little bit different here. I think Seattle's defense is going to cost them a game or two. So I think Green Bay is going to take the 1 seed, and then Seattle's going to end with the 2, and then Tampa. New Orleans has won the head-to-head, but New Orleans has not looked good this year. Barring any injuries on defense for Tampa Bay, I think they're going to stay in top there. They got a big game coming up. I guess it's in 5 weeks they're coming up and playing. So I think that game's going to determine who wins. If Saints are able to...
That'll be in Tampa, correct?
Yes, it'll be in Tampa. So if the Saints are able to go to Tampa and win that game, I think the Saints win the division. But if it's tied 1-1 in their head-to-head series, I don't think they have a chance. So
okay, so you got
Green Bay, Seattle,
Packers,
Tampa.
Okay.
And then, I gotta go with Dallas. They just got too much power. They're gonna figure this thing out on defense. Other than that, the division is just bad. I don't have trust in the Eagles.
No.
And then with the 5 seed, I'm gonna go New Orleans. 6 seed, I'm gonna go with the Rams. I think they're gonna play good football. I think San Francisco is also gonna come up. Very unlikely, but I'm going to pick both San Francisco and the Rams to make the playoffs. I'm guessing 3 people out of the West.
So you got 2 playoff teams from the West.
3 from the West.
Or 2 wild cards from the West, and then your other wild card you said are the Saints.
Yep.
And how do you think the Cardinals finish out this year?
I've been burnt so bad by the Cardinals my last 2 weeks. I thought Kyler was the next big thing. I thought him and D-Hop were going to run the league.
I think he still is. For what it's worth. I think he still is. I think, they've had a couple of bad weeks. And I think this is a year where he does take that next step. I just don't think it's realistic to think he can have a Lamar Jackson type year. No quarterback is year. So I think we're subconsciously trying to compare him to Lamar Jackson. And you can't, because the year Lamar Jackson had was just flat out ridiculous. And he has pieces that Kyler does not yet have, but he's definitely having an improvement year. This is only year 2 for Kyler Murray.
Don't get me wrong, Kyler's still good, very good, especially for how young he is.
Right.
I think everybody was just so excited to elevate him to the God tier and be able to already lead a team to the playoffs, basically without many weapons. And I think it was just a little.
If the Cardinals were in any other division other than the NFC West, I think he would have a really good shot at a wild card. If he was in the AFC, I think he beats out the Raiders, the Titans of the world. I don't think he would have any issue. But the NFC is a little bit tougher, and the division is absolutely a bloodbath with 4 teams who are all very competent. You have the NFC East, in which you have 4 incompetent teams. Okay, and I,
Talk about tilting the scales.
If you put the NFC West and the NFC East in one division, the top 4 teams would come from the NFC West, and the bottom 4 teams would come from the NFC East. Okay, so it's kind of how it it worked out, and how all the divisions and kind of the organization structure of the NFL worked out to Kyler's detriment. But yeah, I agree with you there. I think all of our teams are the same. I think our only switch is the number 1 and number 2 seeds. I have the Seahawks first. I think you have the Packers first. Everything else seems to be more or less the same for the division winners than just the wild card team.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a pretty clear cutoff so far. Injuries can always change it. A team can get hot out of nowhere. You just never know. Maybe when Carolina comes back, who knows? When Christian McCaffrey comes back, maybe they keep playing well, and Christian McCaffrey goes like he did last year, and they make a run. You just never know.
I think out of the teams I picked to make the playoffs there in the NFC, the team I can see dropping and maybe somebody else coming in is the Niners. I can see the Niners injuries being too much for them, and they really just can't finish games because they have a first place schedule this year. A lot of people don't realize that whenever you win a division, the next year you play the other division winners in your same conference. If you finish second in the division, the next year you played every team that placed second. That's why teams that if you remember from the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning years, why they played every year is because they both won their division, and which meant that the next year they're guaranteed to play each other. So that's the one difference that kind of makes it a little bit more competitive in the NFL. That's why you usually see more shifts in the records from year to year from teams. It's because the NFL tries balancing it out. So the bottom team plays the bottom team, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to play the Packers this year, and they're going to play the Saints this year. Whereas the Cowboys have to play the Falcons, and then they're going to play the Vikings. So I think that's in itself is going to be the difference in who wins the NFC East. Because I think they're all going to fare more or less the same against common opponents. But whenever you tip the scales and you get to play Atlanta Falcons team compared to a Saints team versus a Vikings team with Kirk Cousins, and they're 0-4 to start the year themselves compared to the 4-0 Packers. I think a difference like that is
they're
enough.
They're 1-3. They got a win last week.
The Vikings against who?
They looked pretty good. They love it.
I could have sworn the Vikings lost the Titans.
They beat Houston. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. They beat Houston.
Yeah. That was the week before.
Yeah, Titans was the week before. Yeah, Titans didn't play this week because of COVID. That's right. Yeah. So they're 1-3, right? And the team that they did beat were the Houston Texans, who were 0-4. So, like I said, I think the difference between playing a team like the Vikings, where you have a really good chance at winning, versus a team like the Packers, where you have virtually no chance if you're the Philadelphia Eagles on winning that football game. I think that 1.5 games difference, and the fact that the Eagles couldn't beat the Bengals and had to tie them. I think if the Cowboys beat the Bengals, and then the Cowboys get to beat the Vikings, whereas the Eagles get to play the Packers, I think that in itself, that small 2-game sample is going to be enough to push the Cowboys in front of the Eagles. And I don't really have any other concerns for that division. Everyone else will finish with the top 10 draft pick and focus on the rebuild, and we'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts and everything like that. But as far as our playoff pictures go, I think ours are both nearly the same. If you had to give me a champion for each conference, who would you give me?
I think I'm going to have to go Kansas City. They just got too many weapons. They're just too explosive. And then the Packers. The Packers, I think, are more of a complete team than Seattle. I think they're going to have a very good championship game again, just like a few years ago. But I think Aaron Rodgers comes out on top this time.
Yeah, my preseason pick was the Chiefs versus the Seahawks. And I'm going to keep it rolling for the sake of pride and for the sake of just letting Russ cook and letting Russ do what he does. I think that's going to be the difference here. I think they're going to let Russell Wilson just take more command of that team and keep throwing the ball on first down, and it's been working for them. They're number 1 in the league right now in percentage of throwing it on first down. And I think that, combined with Aaron Rodgers' weapons and their injuries at those key positions, that wide receiver and tight end, are going to be the difference there. I could see the Packers obviously winning too, but if I had to pick right now, I got the Chiefs against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs in that game. I think they're going to repeat. I don't think anyone has a chance of slowing down Patrick Mahomes other than Bill Belichick. but I don't think he has the offensive weapons to actually beat him. And I think if you don't have that, if you don't have like a star quarterback on the other side of the ball against Patrick Mahomes, I just don't see you beating him.
The best way I think to beat Patrick Mahomes is it's better if you just keep it close the whole game. Because I think if you take out and jump out to a big lead, he's going to get in the mindset of like, oh, I need to score. And then once he gets that momentum rolling, you're not going to be able to stop him. So if the Patriots and Bill Belichick want to beat him, they're going to have to run the ball, slow down the game, not let him get into a rhythm. But I see the Patriots as a very possible wild card team that could go far. Bill Belichick always trusted them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, the Chiefs, they're kind of like the Golden State Warriors, where if they're down by 10 points, that's pretty much like it's a tied ball game. They can just go up and down the field or the court in the Warriors' case and just put up insane number of points. My thing here is the best way to compete with Patrick Mahomes is able to get a rush on him without having to blitz. Because if you blitz, he's going to take advantage. He's going to take those deep shots. If you can get pressure with their defensive line, like the Chargers did and like the Patriots did, then you have a chance and, baiting him into a mistake potentially and things like that. But if you just let him work with his arm and work with those weapons he has in the field, there's no chance slowing him down. So I think there are a few teams that have a chance at doing so, but I don't think they're going to be successful this year. I'll stick with the Chiefs as my Super Bowl winner. Who do you have in your championship between the Chiefs and the Packers?
I'm going to go Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is having this re-emergent year. I think he wants to prove it to everybody that he's still one of the best quarterbacks. He's got the confidence oozing out of him right now. I just love seeing Aaron Rodgers. I think this is finally the year he gets his second ring.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I was looking over some notes, and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees are two guys that we all know, are in the top 5 quarterbacks of all time, probably. You don't have the numbers to back that up or make that argument. And both of them have only been to one Super Bowl. And Sean Payton's been Drew Brees' coach for a long time there. And surprising, he's only been to one Super Bowl with that coach, with that quarterback. And obviously, I'm not big on the Saints this year, but I am big on the Packers. And I would love to see a Mahomes-Rodgers Super Bowl. I don't know who I would root for in that game. I love both guys. But I can definitely see that happening. I think in the Super Bowl, anything can happen. And I think Andy Reid, though, giving him 2 weeks versus Matt LaFleur, he's a pretty new coach. Obviously, he's had success. But I think Andy Reid, with that experience he's had, been to 2 Super Bowls now, winning that last one, I think that would make me want to lean towards the Chiefs. But like I said, I've had the Chiefs since the preseason. I've always been big on them, and I think they're going to keep rolling. Any kind of final remarks before we kind of dive in to some Thursday night football action?
No, let's get into it.
The Thursday